Do you have seeds that don't germinate properly? Seedlings that don't grow well? Seedlings that perhaps become too tall or leggy? Well, you have to provide the perfect conditions to grow these strong seedlings, and it is exceptionally easy to do so. And after watching this video, you'll practically become a professional at growing seedlings. So let's start with the first step, and arguably perhaps the most important step, and that is to have the right growing medium. The growing medium also plays a crucial role into your germination rate of your seeds as well. And throughout my experiences as a gardener of the last 5 to 6 years, I have found the perfect growing seed starting mix. I use a growing medium that is approximately comprised of 95% coco coir to about 5% sand and 5% worm castings. This seedling mix is light and it helps the roots to really be able to grow. The coconut coir holds on to moisture and also provides enough nutrients for any of your seedlings. Also, the coconut coir helps to retain moisture. The sand helps it to drain freely, and the worm castings provide enough nutrients to be able to get your seeds off on the right start. The best way to fill your seed cells or seedling trays is to simply take your cells and then put them into a tote or a tray and simply scoop the potting soil or your seed starting mix on top of them. This will allow for a easy cleanup and the soil getting to where you want them. So if you use this composition of growing medium, 90% coconut coir, 5% sand, and worm castings, you will have an excellent germination rate. Now the second thing you want to do is to be sure to check the date of the seeds that you are growing. Every seed packet by law that you buy has to have a date and a year that that seed was packed for and a sell-by date. Now there are certain seeds to where you do not have to really follow that date, but for small seeds such as lettuce, onions, most herb seeds, and so on, you want to try and get the freshest seeds that you can for the highest germination rate within the first or second year. Bigger seeds such as tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, cucumbers, melons, and so on, I've grown seeds that are as much as 5 years old. 5 years, and I still get excellent germination rate. It just depends how you store them and what conditions the seeds have been in. But if you're just starting out, it is always best to get a fresh batch of seeds so that you know your germination rate will be the highest it possibly can. And that's really what I'm here all about. I want you to have the most abundant harvest imaginable. So now once you get your seed cells all filled up with the perfect growing medium that I've mentioned, you want to go ahead and set it on a heat mat. I have this right underneath my grow lights here, and I'm going to plant some seeds. Sure, we can see that this tray is a little bit dry, so the first thing you always want to make sure is to have the proper amount of moisture within the growing media. It is really important to have a consistent moisture to be able to germinate your seeds well and help them to get off on a correct start. So today I'm going to be starting some echinacea seeds. We'll make a little space in our cells to plant these seeds. Then I'll plant right around 2 seeds in each cell, just in case one of them doesn't grow. And so this allows me to have a good insurance, and I can always thin them down the road. And this way, none of the space in any of these cells goes to waste. Then I use either my fingers or any sort of object that fits in these cells to just touch down the growing medium, tap it down a little bit. This way, the most amount of moisture and growing medium will be in contact with the seeds. And that is really what you want so they know to germinate. That seed to soil contact is very important because it signals to the seed that there's enough moisture to get on growing. And this is the way that you can get your seeds off on the best of starts. Now, this is very important. You will want to add a thin layer of this seed starting mix to the top of your cells. The coco coir in this mix is very good at retaining moisture, and there's one more thing that it does, and that will be coming up a little bit later. Then what you'll do is press it down one more time, and your seeds are ready to grow. The third thing for success is to get those perfect growing conditions. Seeds like perfect conditions to start germinating. Now the 2 things that they really like when they start to grow is the heat and also humidity. Believe it or not, light is not very important when trying to germinate a lot of seeds. Only a few seeds such as petunias really require light in order to germinate, and the back of your seed packet will display that information. Seeds rather instead prefer the warmth, especially crops such as tomatoes, peppers, and in the cucumber family like cucumbers, melons, and so on. All summer vegetables that are not frost hardy love having these warm conditions in order to help their germination process. So the best way to provide enough warmth to your seedlings is to use seedling heat mats. Now, I personally put these heat mats under my seed cells, and these heat mats also do a good job at keeping the temperature right around 75 degrees. I can always adjust it with this little knob. I will leave a link down in the description to the exact one that I've bought. 75 degrees is a perfect temperature for seeds to be able to germinate and seedlings to start on the right foot. Now, if you are using heat mats, there's one thing that you do need to keep in mind. You need to daily check your seed cells because the heat from the mat can quickly dry out your trays. And this is where adding that little layer of coco coir on the top of your seed cells comes in very, very handy. All you have to look for is the color of the mix. If it has dried out a little bit and it needs water, it will start to look like this. Something a little bit lighter in color, but if it has been watered or is sufficiently moist, then it will have a darker color similar to the color of this coco coir mix, which I just watered. Now, heat mats are not always needed if you're starting your seeds indoors right next to a window and you already get 75-degree temperatures in your home. Now, the only other thing that you need to keep in mind is humidity and moisture. You can create humidity by just using a humidity dome. After around 50% of the seedlings germinate or so, you will want to take off that dome so the plants have the ability to breathe and to get a little bit of airflow. So now if your seeds are viable, you can absolutely, with these few tips, achieve 95% or higher germination rate. It generally takes between 3 and 14 days for most seeds to germinate, depending on the type of crop that you're growing. But maybe you're like me, and you've been gardening for several years and started to get a bunch of seeds collected. So if you have some of these seeds and you want to check to know if they are viable, go ahead and check out this video now that shows you an easy and simple way on how to check your seeds.